The sound hit first those doors smacking the wall like a starting gun, and then his voice cutting through all the noise, steady and scared at the same time. "Where is she, Grace Rivera, where?" And somebody saying, "Operating room 3. If you're really O-negative, lie down now." I was sliding in and out of light, cold crawling up my arms, ceiling tiles swimming, but that voice, I knew it even through the fog. Noah Sterling, my ex, the guy the magazines call a visionary, like they've met his soul, the man who used to kiss me in a ramen truck before Kestrel Systems turned our life into a calendar. He didn't bring a board packet or a speech, he brought blood. And yeah, that happened. I'll tell it straight the way it went, no violins, no TED Talk, because some of you live too close to this kind of story to stomach polish. We met in Port Alder when he ordered truffle oil like a dare, and I told him to take several seats. He laughed, came back, then kept coming back until the jokes turned into vows, courthouse wedding. Takeout dinner, my brother DJing from a cracked phone. I thought we were building something scrappy and ours. Then the meetings got later, the words got sharper, people at investor dinners patted my hand and asked what I brought to the brand, and I learned how to smile while they called me lucky to stand next to a man in a suit. The night I left, I didn't slam anything. I folded a note that said, "Talk to me for real or don't talk at all," and I took a bus across town to a studio over a laundromat that smelled like warm cotton and second chances. 2 pink lines showed up on a pharmacy stick twins. "And before you come for me," I did think about calling him. Then I pictured Meredith Cole, the board chair, with the iced tea smile telling me I was good for Noah's balance like I was a scented candle. And I remembered his calendar, where family time looked like a bug in the code. I wanted my kids to be someone's first choice without having to audition. So I told no one but my sister and Dr. Park. I worked mornings at Old Harbor Books and sat in the ugly green chair by the window and whispered to the tiny people inside me about gulls that hover like kites and about the future, how it would be soft and stubborn and ours. The second trimester flirted with kindness, then bailed. My blood pressure climbed my ring, paid for vitamins with names that sounded like planets. I learned the bus routes to the clinic by heart, and I kept moving because no one else was going to do it for us, you know what I mean. At 34 weeks and a handful of days, my vision fuzzed, my hands tingled, Dr. Park said. Preeclampsia in that calm voice doctors use when calm is the only tool left. "We're delivering early." "Grace," she said, and the room tipped sideways. I asked her not to call him because pride and fear share a zip code, and then the world narrowed to beeps and lights, and the feeling of being opened up while trying to hold on. Somewhere between the cold in my spine and the hot behind my eyes, he arrived not as a headline, not as a CEO, but as a human with the one thing I needed. O-negative. "Take whatever you need," he told Dr. Park, and she said, "We intend to," and a nurse with pink clogs taped his line and made a joke that didn't land, and he laughed anyway, thin and real. Down the hall, a CFO named Pierce showed up with a folder and a stormproof suit and said, "Optics matter," and Dr. Park, who does not blink, said, "So does blood pressure, pick one." And somewhere a janitor named Luis sat with Noah and said, 40 years of mopping, and I've never seen a dying man ask for his laptop, and that line would be corny if it hadn't been said under fluorescent lights at 2 a.m., while people held the door for me on the other side. The twins came small and fierce, breathing like they meant it. Star and Harbor on their bands, because Port Alder people name things after the sky and the water, and I slept without sleeping, while Noah watched them under the warm lights, like he was standing outside a church. When I woke up, Dr. Park said, "They're strong, and I cried in the way you cry, when your body has no spare parts left. Then I saw him blanket around his shoulders like a lost tourist. Stubble eyes wrecked, and he said, "You came," and I said, "Of course," except what I actually said was sharper, because honesty comes with teeth when you've been alone too long. I took buses, Noah. I sold my ring. I begged ceilings. If you're here to manage a crisis, save it. I don't need a project manager. I need a partner, or I need space. And he nodded, like the truth had finally found a soft spot. I told Meredith, "I'm stepping back," he said. Voice rough. I told Pierce to lose my number unless a server catches fire. I want to learn to hold my kids before I hold a microphone. And I had heard that cadence before in rooms with coffee and whiteboards. But this time it missed a few steps in a way that felt human. A week taught me how to tell the difference between intention and choice. He slept in a chair that squeaked like it owed someone money, changed diapers like he was defusing a bomb, sang so. Off-key, a nurse stuck her head in to check the machines. Star calmed for him anyway. Harbor studied him like a professor grading an oral exam, and I watched from a wheelchair in the doorway, with my arms aching and my heart wary. Nurses whispered because nurses are people day 4. Same hoodie billionaire told his assistant he missed a board call because the baby hiccuped and the rumor swelled like a tide and then steadied because consistency is louder than gossip. We went home to the studio first because the penthouse felt like a museum with alarms. He followed with boxes and the loudest baby monitor on earth. He baby-proofed a place with no cabinets, measured outlets, burned eggs, laughed, and asked me to teach him all the small, holy skills no one puts on a resume. How to swaddle without making a burrito. How to tell hunger from boredom, how to assemble a bottle without building a crime scene. He failed 7 times and learned 8. And for once, he didn't post a single picture because not everything needed an audience. At sunset on the roof over the laundromat, the air smelling like soap and quarters, he knelt with a simple ring, silver, with 2 small stones, blue and rose. "For Harbor and Star," he said, "no big speech. I want family dinner at 6, phones in a drawer, counseling on Thursdays, sacred Sundays. And I want you to call me out when I become a spreadsheet with legs. I want to earn this." And I said yes out loud, and not so fast in writing. Here's the twist people argue about when I tell this. I kept my lease for 6 months with my name on it. We signed a postnup that puts a real piece of his shares into a trust for the kids, controlled by someone who doesn't care about Kestrel's stock price released over time. If he keeps the family promises, not the market ones. We booked counseling every Thursday at 10, even when everything felt fine. We made Sunday mornings sacred pancakes and parks, no exceptions. And we set the phones in a drawer at 6, like it was church. He didn't flinch, didn't spin, just signed, showed up. Burnt pancakes, tried again. Apologized without a comma. I checked email during tummy time. "I'm sorry. I'm closing it. You know what I mean." Kestrel didn't burn down Dawn. The woman who had been quietly running circles around the room for years took the helm and posted the best quarter in company history. Meredith sent a card that said, "Proud," and a line admitting, "I had been right to protect my life when the money tried to swallow it." Pierce emailed a bullet list about optics, and Noah replied with a picture of Star asleep on his chest, subject line, "Optics." I printed that and stuck it on the fridge next to Harbor's first smear of sweet potato art. The win wasn't the ring. It wasn't a headline. It was a Tuesday when Harbor's monitor stayed quiet for an hour, and my shoulders finally dropped. It was Star grabbing Noah's finger like a tiny dictator, and him laughing without looking over his shoulder at a calendar. It was me seeing not a brand, but a tired man whose blood is in my veins, trying, failing, trying again. And then months later, both kids said Dada at the same time while he butchered Goodnight Moon, and you could watch a wall fall in his eyes, like someone told him he could finally go home after a long war. Now here's the open door that keeps the comments spicy 6 months in. Kestrel's board asked Noah to come back as executive chair, no day-to-day, just a steady name and a few hours a week. He said, no. Then asked me what I thought. I said, I won't live in a press release, he said. He misses the problem sets. We drew a line in pencil, not pen. He can take it if Thursdays stay, if 6 o'clock stays, if Sundays stay sacred, if an outside referee tracks the hours and yanks the cord when the old hunger sneaks in. And that's where we are right now, building in pencil, erasing, redrawing, choosing the next right thing, not forever, just now. If you're still here, thank you. Tell me in the comments where you land on this. Is a second chance earned or given? Would you have taken the ring and the penthouse, or kept the lease and the postnup? Where's the line between ambition and abandonment? What does justice look like inside a family that can't afford another court? If you've lived something like this, lend your map, and if this hit you somewhere tender, hit subscribe, share it with the one person who needs to hear that. Success without love is just a loud kind of empty. We'll read your stories at 6 pancakes, cooling phones in the drawer.